the important part of the hackathon is to recognize what is fundamentally going to be the most useful. What is going to provide the highest and best usage? So there's a lot of for the effort that is contributed. So that's their challenge, and it'll be exciting to see what they come up with.
And for the hackathon participant and listeners, what's one action they can take today to support the fight against food insecurity?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that they can do is advocate. They can talk to an elected official. They have to hear it over and over and over again in order to.
So I'll formally introduce myself. I am Vidhi Mehta. I'm currently a York student. I'm taking digital and content marketing program, and I'm currently acting as a director of marketing at Seneca Hackathon. I'm just recent director. I was a manager, but I was just now
Congratulations.
made director. Thank you so much. I'll let you introduce yourself. I don't want to mess up the introduction, so you can go ahead and do it. Yeah.
Sure. My name's Neil Hetherington. I have the awesome privilege of being the CEO of the Daily Bread Food Bank. From a background perspective, I spent about 5 years working in the for-profit sector, building high-rise condominiums. And then when I was 25, I had the opportunity to lead Habitat for Humanity in Toronto and then New York City. And so for the last 20 plus years, I've been a nonprofit CEO, and working now in food insecurity, but all related to poverty related issues, and just asking the question, why do we have so much poverty in Canada? Being discontent with that, and then hopefully doing something about it.
You've been doing it since you were 25 years old. That's 1 year younger than I am. So that's a very, you started very early, and that's a very good thing, I guess. And how have your journey been so far? Like, how have you improved the surroundings and everything? How do you think you've made changes, you've brought changes to the surroundings?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of questions in there. So I think the first thing is, throughout my whole career, there has been an exposure of injustices in my mind, and the world's got some fundamental problems. And one of those problems is the growing divide between the rich and the poor, and it has it's been exacerbated over the last number of years. And so you got to look at, well, what are the reasons why that is happening? And in Canada's case, like we're certainly seeing when governments no longer built social housing, there was a problem with that. When there was a rise of precarious employment, we saw a lack of income security for people. And when there was an increase in the number of individuals who were on income supports like disability, be treated so poorly that they weren't able to even purchase the food that they need for themselves, our values got misplaced. And so throughout my career, it's just been, doing something about it. So building homes or providing food, but at the same time advocating for systemic change, pointing out that we've got a value misalignment across this country. We're not putting our resources into the right areas, and saying to folks, do we want to not live in a more just society? Do we not want to live in a Canada where everybody can afford the food that they need, that they can afford to live in accommodation, that they can have a place of employment which will allow them to be able to pay for their needs and thrive in community? And so when you ask those questions, it compels you, I think, to act upon it. And so that's what my career journey has been about.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Daily Bread Food Bank is one of the largest food banks in Canada. It is dedicated to providing emergency food relief to individuals and family facing food insecurity in Toronto. Since its founding in 1983, that's a long time ago, Daily Bread has become a vital organization distributing millions of pounds of food each year through a network of over 200 food programs across the city. So, Neil, I wanted to ask, what are the biggest challenges that Daily Bread has it's been facing, like the food banks are facing today? What are some of the biggest challenges?
Well, I mean, it really has been the growing need in the city. So let me give you some context. 5 years ago, every month we would see about 55 to 60,000 client visits per month. The number last month was 330,000. We've gone from providing about 8 million meals, 8 million pounds of food per year, to now just under 50 million pounds per year. So you think about that, that's almost a million meals every single week have to come through. So what are the challenges? Well, the challenges are, how do you scale an organization so quickly? How do you grow so quickly? We had to raise $8.5 million only 5 years ago. Now we have to raise $40 million a year. So scaling has been a real challenge. There has been external environments where you say, listen, people have less money to give. Food is expensive for them as well, so they have less food to donate. So how do you provide a case for support when much of the population is already struggling? And so scaling and growing among an environment of uncertainty. We talk a lot about tariffs right now. There's incredible uncertainty out in the economy, and yet the need is ever greater. And so we've got to be able to satisfy that need, feed that need now. Now, here's the good thing, and I think you always need a little bit of hope. In that difficult circumstance, people start to say, wait a second, my kids can't afford a home anymore. My kids are working real hard. 60% of food bank users have a university education and have a job, and yet they can't afford food. And so people are saying, this is wrong. It never used to be like this. How can we return to something better? And so everything is lined up to be able to advocate louder.
And from my research, I've seen that food insecurity is not very popular topic. It's not as talked about as the other calamities. Why do you think food insecurity isn't treated with the same urgency as a natural disaster or some other crisis? So
Yeah.
for me, it was a new topic, so that's why I'm considering as a taboo topic or something that's not discussed a lot.
I think it's because it's often hidden. So you think about food insecurity. Maybe somebody missed lunch today because they couldn't afford it. Maybe somebody missed a few meals today. Maybe they went a day without food. They might not talk about that at all, and you're not going to notice that when you walk by them. But if there's a natural disaster, if there's a forest fire, you're gonna see the smoke. If
Mhm.
there is a flood in downtown Toronto, you're going to see the water. If there is, any of these natural disasters, we see it and we move to it and we act upon it. But here's something that always drives me nuts. There's 1 in 10 Torontonians, 1 in 10 get their food from Daily Bread Food Bank. 1 in 10. And imagine if 1 in 10 Torontonians were displaced by a flood. We would send the army in to pack sandbags and reinforce the walls and drain the flood. We would rebuild. We would do everything that we could for that. If 1 in 10 were faced with that, it would be on the front page of this Toronto Star every single day until it was fixed. Yet not food insecurity. 2.8 million Canadians are severely food insecure. About 9 million of 40 million are food insecure, but severely food insecure, missing meals. So it's hidden, it's not talked about, and if it did have those visuals, I think people would react far differently. Certainly government would act differently.
1 in 10 is a huge number. So how do you cope up? how do you manage all those food? Like, where do you get the food from, and how do you manage the whole process of like getting accommodating so many people at once?
It's not easy. But we have a variety of channels. The biggest channel that we have, the most effective channel that we have, is sending trucks down to greenhouses that operate year round, and they provide surplus food. And there's huge amounts, thousands of tons, about 52 tons of food every single day are coming in here from farms. So that's a big driver. Then you have the public who donate food at different at grocery stores or fire halls, and then we ask people to donate. And when people donate to us, we can buy food with that. We've gone from spending $1.5 million a year on food, and now we spend $29 million a year on food. It is incredibly difficult, but here's a little positive. When we've gone from 1.5 million to 29 million, our purchasing power has increased dramatically. So our per unit costs have actually decreased over that period of time.
Okay. And how does Daily Bread predict how much food will be needed at different locations, and what makes the process difficult? Like, there are a lot of areas that you need to cover, right? So how do you manage that?
There's a lot of ways. We have some very smart people here doing forecasting, and we use a whole bunch of different metrics to make that happen. We use artificial intelligence to do some of that forecasting because we've got to say how many people are going to go to that very small food bank in North Etobicoke, or in Scarborough, or in York, and how many do we think are going to be there in 6 weeks' time? What food do we have now? What do we think we're going to get donated to us in between that period? What can we purchase that will arrive on time? And make sure that everybody who arrives at one of the Daily Bread food banks gets 3 days worth of food every single week. And if you give too much food, it might get wasted. If you give too little food, somebody goes hungry. So you got to be really accurate. So smart people doing great work and also aided by AI is what we do.
I've never imagined AI would be important in this field sector. I've always seen it as an IT thing and not something that could help with such type of issues as well. So AI is making a lot of a difference. I see that.
It is. I mean,
So
it's the solution.
yeah,
It's the solution to much of our challenge that we have. But I'm going to argue it's also part of the problem, or will be part of the problem.
okay.
There's going to be a lot of disruption that happens with that. So we're using AI to be able to serve that need now. That need is going to grow as AI grows until things settle themselves out.
In one of my other podcasts, I asked the guest the same question. I've been getting this question a lot. Do you think AI will be stealing jobs? How do you think AI is harmful in your field of sector?
Well, every disruption has always cost jobs, but every disruption has also made humankind sort of better off. You can go back to the Industrial Revolution and then the internal combustion engine, and you start going through each one of these revolutions, and then the computers coming out, and it disrupted. And then we've had versions of AI already, but this is something new. This is more significant. So the question, that I've got on that is, will we be able to catch up? Will we be able to transform our economies? Will we be able to provide services that machinery and will not be able to do? I don't know the answer to that. And I think anybody who does say they know the answer to that is not humble enough to recognize they don't know what they're talking about. So I don't know the answer at all. I know that it is going to be disruptive. I know that I wouldn't want to be in my 20s right now. I'm glad I'm closer to retirement than starting my career.
But someone will be taking your like someone will be taking over your job, right? So it would be their loss, I think. But
Well,
I see a lot of challenges around this area in my field.
yeah, it's not easy, that's for sure.
Okay. So my next question is, food donations don't always match what people need, right? So how does Daily Bread manage this issue? Like, where do you see a room for improvement? Where do you see that there's something that is not that needs improvement in the sector? Since we have like this hackathon, this year's hackathon is around food, what do you think our students can create that would help your company
Mm.
or your nonprofit?
Well, I mean, there's a variety of things. I think first let's look at it at a macro level. What can they create that will perhaps lead to finding out where is the best location for me to get affordable housing? Is there something there where you can tackle affordable housing and making sure that people have access to it? Is there something that allows for individuals to navigate or learn about the social interventions that our government has that they might not know about? For example, if you are not if you're struggling right now, and you're having to come to the food bank, how do you know that you could get free dental care if you filled out these forms? How do you know how
Mm,
to apply for a job? How do you know how to apply for social housing? Is there a way that you can get assistance with a personal support worker? Navigating the social infrastructure that we have in Canada is very difficult. Think about when maybe you've gone to the hospital or you're trying to get a doctor for the first time. Figuring out how that works is kind of hard. Imagine now you're in a more precarious situation, and you've got to navigate the social infrastructure, which is more complex. So, is there some sort of hack there available? And then you bring it to the individual level. So at a macro level, there's a lot of ways for, I think, technology to direct people into getting the services that they need. For us, I'm excited about how can we, maybe reduce waste of food waste. How can we make sure that we have on-time deliveries to each of the food banks across the city, recognizing what traffic patterns are or predicted to be, and navigating our trucks all around those. How can we alter hours of service that will best benefit the local community? By learning what's sort of happening in that local community. How can we make the right purchasing decisions? Is it better for Daily Bread to buy 10,000 small bags of rice or 1,000 bags of large rice and decant it into that? There's a whole host of questions that you have to ask all of the time. What is the right proteins for us to buy? Should they be plant-based proteins because more people like them, or because they're healthier for you? Or should they be animal-based proteins, but people like them better? And there's a cost differential. Like, you're going through questions all of the time. The important part of the hackathon is to recognize what is fundamentally going to be the most useful. What is going to provide the highest and best usage? So there's a lot of for the effort that is contributed. So that's their challenge, and it'll be exciting to see what they come up with.
hmm. So many people don't know, many people want to help, but they don't know how. What's the best way for someone to make a real impact on the food insecurity part? What do you think people would do and that would help the food insecurity part?
So there's I mean, people can obviously donate. They can donate money, they can donate food, but not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Some people might be able to donate their time by volunteering, and that's fantastic. But here's the thing that everybody can do, regardless of the amount of time they have in their life, regardless of their financial situation. Everybody can advocate for change. Every single person can, if they chose to, write a letter to an elected official. Everybody could send a postcard to the prime minister or the premier and say, I heard about food insecurity and you need to do something about it. I heard that there is an issue with affordable housing and I want you to step up your efforts on that. So everybody, no matter what situation they are in their life right now, can be a beacon for good if they choose to be, by advocating for change.
Hmm. how many volunteers, I'm just curious, how many volunteers right now work with Daily Breads?
About 14,000.
Okay, that's a huge number. And how do you manage all that people? Like, I know there should be some hierarchy in place, but 14,000 people is a lot of people to manage.
Yeah, it is, and but that's where technology comes in. And so, how do you? And the way that we operate that, you have volunteers who come in every week, and they're a wonderful group. They're relationship ones. You have others that will be with their company, and their company, maybe it's the Royal Bank of Canada, and they send a volunteer crew in of 100 people, and they volunteer for just one day. Those are appreciated because they often bring money as well with them. So, Martin Luther King Jr. has a wonderful quote that we can all be great because we can all serve. And for us, it's just making sure that people know that they can serve, whether it's here, whether it's in their comfort of their living room, sending a text to the premier or whoever it is. We can all be great because we can all serve.
That that's a good thought. It was can you repeat the who quoted that quote?
Oh yeah, so that's a
Martin.
quote. That was written in a jail cell in a letter from Martin Luther King Jr. From Birmingham,
Hmm.
Alabama.
That's a very good thought. What so there's important how important is raising awareness and what can be done to make food insecurity a bigger issue in the public eye? What do you think is missing that is like uh, bringing it down from the public eye, if you get my question?
I think it's out there in the public eye right now. Like most of the studies show that
Mm,
people are concerned. They're concerned about affordable housing. They're concerned about food insecurity. But here's where it falls down. It's in the public eye. But right now, politicians have made a calculation. We can ignore the problem or we can own it. Now, if they ignore the problem, some people get upset about it. But if they own the problem, they have to admit in a very humble way that their system is flawed, that their policies aren't all that they're cracked up to be. They have to have a sense of vulnerability and a sense of humility to say, things aren't the way they ought to be. And very few politicians want to do that. I didn't see on the campaign trail when, and this is all levels of government, it's not just one. But, we just had a provincial election in Ontario. And we touted the fact that there were just under 1 million new jobs created under Ford's leadership. And that's something to celebrate. But also, in the last 4 years, we have gone from 500,000 Ontarians needing a food bank to over 1 million. And so you have 1 million new jobs, that's great, but you have 1 million people on food banks and coming to a food bank, and that's problematic. And so I think you got to own both the good and the bad and say, okay, yeah, it's great that there's jobs, but are those jobs strong enough where they can actually afford to live in their apartment and pay for the food that they need? So I think there needs to be that political fortitude, courage, and leadership to say things aren't the way they should be, and we want to make them better.
mm. And if you could change one policy that could improve food security in Canada, what would it be?
Well, I think it's wrong to say there's one silver bullet, but I'll go along with it. My one thing would be a fully funded Canada Disability Benefit. So right now, if you're on disability in Ontario, you get $1,300 per month, $1,366 a month to survive on. And nobody can survive on $1,300 a month to pay for their rent, pay for their food, pay for their clothing and transportation. And so if I had one sort of magic thing, it would be that the Canada Disability Benefit, which is coming this July, would be about $1,000, not $200, which it is. And if it was $1,000, that would bring people who are unable to work, it would bring them at least to the poverty line so that they could afford the food that they need. So that would be my one thing. But I want to be very clear. It's not just one thing. You know, social policy is complex, and so there is no one silver bullet. Just as there's, you know, so I think we got to be cautious on that. But that would be my one.
That amount struck me because you said that the amount one person gets when they apply for disability. That's the same amount we are asked to bring, like the students who come from the other parts of world. They are asked to bring this amount per month along with them if they want to study in Canada. So right now, I just came in August. So I was told that I need to give deposit of $20,000. So they'll give me $1,300 per month from that deposit to survive. So that's the same amount we get as well, uh,
Mm,
just same as disability. So I agree with that. It's not the enough amount to survive here in Canada.
yep.
And for the hackathon participant and listeners, what's one action they can take today to support the fight against food insecurity?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that they can do is advocate. They can talk to an elected official. They have to hear it over and over and over again in order to uh, in order to affect change. And so, I guess that's ultimately my hope, that people hear what the situation is, get mad about it, and call an elected official.
Okay, that was my last question
All
for
right.
today. I won't be taking any long of your time.
No, not at
Uh,
all.
but yeah, well, I'll definitely pass along this message that we
Okay.
need to do something about the food bank. We have the similar thing with Seneca as well. Seneca works as a part of Seneca is like having this food bank that
Yep.
needs donations as well. And like I've seen a lot of issues around food insecurity recently. So I'll definitely make sure to pass along the message. And thank you for your time today. It was really nice meeting you, and it was a wonderful experience for me, and I am sure for
Me too.
Abhinaya as well.
So I'm
Okay.
sorry about the timing
Uh,
again, but I really enjoyed the opportunity to speak with
it's
you both.
okay. It's okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for your
Have a great
time.
day.
Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
Neil.
You too. Bye.
See you in person. Thank you.